Very welcome to Irish Roots Festival 2021. I'm Marvin, and right now I'm interviewing my sister, Shara Bell, who previously would have been Shara Jathan, and I am a Jathan. Shara, how you doing?
Hey, hey, bro.
Hey, sis, how are you?
Good.
Cool.
Just over here in London, we're slowly coming out of lockdown, so that feels really good and very positive, and like things are moving in a direction of hope. So, yeah,
Oh,
things are good.
fantastic. Can't ask for any more than that, then, really, can we?
Not really.
So basically, I mean, you know, a lot of people will know me as a music producer and a DJ and someone who's heavily been involved in music from a young age. But where how did I start getting into music is the question. And when I start thinking about that, I always have to point the finger directly at you because I don't know how different my
Sorry,
life would have
Mum.
turned out. I don't know how different my life would have turned out, in terms of what I would have done if you had been someone who'd been like involved in tennis or accounting or
Well, Mum wanted me to be a psychiatric nurse, and that was the route I was going down, or which I persuaded her to like shift that slightly and did a psychology degree instead because I didn't want to go and work in a psychiatric hospital at the age of 19, 20. So, yeah,
we both did our
it could have
time in
been.
actually working in
Yeah, we did.
hospitals like that, when we were like I think you probably worked there first, did you? In
Yeah, we worked in a mental home,
mm,
um, where a state-run home for people who I guess the state had put into a mental hospital situation, and there was one near our house. And I still don't know why, but we got jobs there through our mum was a psychiatric nurse and a therapist, and I guess I started working there on weekends, and I was going to do a psychology degree, so I thought that that would be quite helpful to me. But it was pretty intense. We were very young in one way to be involved in that kind of care, but it was also really educational, hilarious, uplifting, and hard work. But yeah, I guess you. I didn't even know you did that. Did you do that?
I did it. Yeah, I mean, I think I did 2 summers there. I think you did 2 summers there as well, possibly maybe more.
Yeah,
I don't know what you did more than me because you were studying a psychology degree.
yeah.
So I did, yeah, like when I was 15 and when I was 16, I worked in that place, which is kind of wild when you think about it. I'm not sure if that would happen nowadays, though.
No, I can't. There's no way that could happen nowadays because there was some very violent patients and very ill people there, as well as some wonderful, just wonderful people, and all the nurses and the people who gave their time and effort to work there and help those people were phenomenal as well. And maybe that was a good basis for getting careers in music for sure. For me, anyway, that
Definitely,
definitely helped.
definitely helped. I think I've a lasting memory of working in that center, and then the clients who lived in there full time. They used to get me to wake up one of the wards, and I would the first guy on the ward I had to wake up in the mornings, so I'd probably arrive in there at 7, and I'd have to knock on his door and wake him up, and then I'd go around wake everyone else up, but he wouldn't get out of bed till I put on his favorite ABBA cassette, which was like the greatest hits of ABBA on cassette or
Yeah.
something. So I'd have to like crank it, and then he would refuse to get out of bed. He'd awake, but he would refuse to get out of bed. So it was always kind of like, it was weird. It was always this kind of musical connotation going on there, which I guess, as someone who's heavily involved in music, I kind of resonated with that quite a lot. So
Yeah,
I don't know. It was
they did. There was always music
there
there.
was
There was
always
always
music
music
there.
playing. Yeah,
I,
and Elvis was a big favorite when I worked there. And they were very, very obsessed with Elvis. Actually, it's interesting because to us that wasn't the music we were listening to at the time either. But they always did. There was always play. They always did a musical performance as well, and they all loved it so much. So yeah, I mean, mental health and music is so directly connected, and music is one way that we both know can lift you
yeah,
out
big
of
time.
certain situations for sure. And I think we're all missing that so much at the moment. Just that connecting, you know, under the umbrella of music, because in so many ways we still do, even at this stage of our lives. You know, it's the one thing that gets everybody feeling the same way under the same roof, I guess, and I think that's greatly missed.
You know, just also getting back to just the fact that we did have these jobs. I think, you know, I guess it all comes down to our parents that, you know, who kind of make us the people that we are. I mean, there's always outside influences, but the kind of underlying factor is that they kind of feed into the narrative and the balance, you know. And you know what I mean? I guess like a lot of people ask me about you and me being into music and how we grew up around music, and in a way we did. Did we grow up around music? I don't feel like
we
music
did.
was.
I mean, no, like there was one point when I think EP Tomby, who were a South African band or an African band, came and stayed in our house when they were on tour in the 70s.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. And then
I
we'd
have.
always have Mum always played like Joe Dolan, or there was always country western music playing in the background. Like, do you want your old lobby washed down, sunshine, and that kind of mad music. So on one hand you had that, and on the other hand you had like lots of Indian music. I mean, the first kind of album or tape of music that I ever got was from the library, and it was the score to West Side Story, and I would play it repetitively over and over and over again. Or Hello Dolly was the first video we ever had seen, and we played that repetitively. So there was always music. It was just all very different kinds of music, and Dad was really into the Beatles, but the majority of it was like, I mean, they took us to see Ravi Shankar. Do you remember that? You were really small.
I don't remember that. I didn't even know
we
that.
were kids. We went with Vinesh and Sinead and Dina, and Dad took us to, and we went to see him. And I don't know where we were. You're going to have to ask him. But yeah,
Ravi
we used
Shankar.
to go. Yeah, we used to go, and
Wow.
any kind of like Indian music that was playing or available, they would go. And then, like I say, EP Tomby stayed with us when they were on tour.
I
So there's
remember
lots
the
of
Ippy Tomby thing actually. I don't know what
yeah.
I haven't got a like direct memory of it, but like it's just ringing bells in my head.
Yeah, well, you would have that, and then on Mum's side, you'd go down the country, and every time, and still to this day, if you go around Nanny's now, and all the brothers and sisters there, someone will take out the accordion, and everyone will be dancing and singing, and the spoons will come out, and that was something we always grew up with, even though it wasn't maybe directly Mum and Dad. There was always music around. There was always sing songs at every wedding, funeral, birthday. Mum got up and did "Will You Go, Lassie Go," or "Take the Blanket from the Ground," I think it was. And everyone would get up and sing,
or
"Leave the Blanket on the Ground." And Uncle Pat was in a band of some dubious descriptions, but
I'm sure he was in a few bands.
But also, Mum, you know that Mum went for an audition to be a country and western singer, going on a tour with some Irish band, and she went with my Uncle Pat. So he was the one who was auditioning, and when she was there, she was a bit hot stuff, I think. They said to her, would you not get up and sing and see how, you know, try out? And she was like, all right. And she did, and she got up and sang, and they gave her the job, and she was offered the tour. She was off to America to sing with this band. Did you not know that?
No.
It's good to talk, people. It's good to talk.
I never heard
so
that.
and she turned it down because I think she met Dad or she just met him, and she was like, "Oh, I'm not going." I was like, "What?
Oh my God.
Why?" But then I guess we wouldn't be here. But yeah, so although you say you don't think there is quite a lot of music in their family.
I mean, I do remember like when I started buying records, going through Digital Records and finding a copy of Peter Tosh Legal Idol. And going like, what?
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I mean, so for you, like, you know, what's your earliest memories of getting into music? Because I mean, you're always, from what I remember, you were all singing, all dancing to a certain degree, mostly all dancing or all running. So like, what's your early memories of actually doing something musical? Do you have any specific, apart from the family influences, like, you know, but.
Well, because the schools we went to were all, I mean, I played the recorder for President Herzog of Israel in the school we went to. I know, it's so funny. I played the Jewish national anthem. Actually, I think it was on the tin whistle, and for the president of Israel. I think music was always, I don't know really. We're at the school, we're very privileged to go to very good schools, both you and I.
Mm.
And the school that I went to I was not, we weren't sporty, and I wasn't sporty. So the choices were music or sport, and you had to be into one or the other really. So I was like in choir, I played the drums, I played timpanis in the school orchestra. Also, I should add that if you did any of those things, it got you out of class to go and do the classes. So I was like, yeah, sign me up. I wasn't interested really in learning. And music was a great way of doing that. But I think even then at the time, you weren't really encouraged because there wasn't a proper job. When proper jobs were, as Nanny used to say, in the bank, in the post office. And even when I moved away to work in music, she would always say to me, when are you coming home to get yourself a proper job? So I just think we grew up in a generation, maybe, and maybe me more because I'm a bit older than you, that where we didn't get those opportunities. So like they weren't really offered for women. But the schools I went to had heavily influenced musical programs. So I took advantage of that. And I think in my third year, like I directed and produced and designed all the costumes for like a alternative West Side Story because I was obsessed with it. And we performed it for the whole school. And that, I don't know. I mean, there wasn't careers that kind of directed you like that. And when you went to see the career teacher at school, they were like, nursing, secretary. Okay, maybe you could do law or medicine or stuff like that, veterinary by then. But I was told I was never going to do any of those things because I didn't do honours level maths. So they were like, no, you need to go and look at nursing. You need to go and look at those kind of careers.
It's just kind of like, not really what it's about anymore, I think. I mean, I feel like people are starting to go towards, you don't necessarily need a degree to work in like some of the major stockbroking firms or banks because they're missing out on certain types of minds.
Yeah.
Because they're like eradicating people who might have like stunning brains to do specific jobs because they don't have a degree or something.
But in your school, did you not, because we didn't go to the same school, but did you not,
No.
Did you not? Was there not? Yours was quite sporty and rugby-ish, wasn't it? There wasn't really. Was there not music?
It was a really small school. We did have a music thing where we had this teacher called Mr. Browner. I hope Mr. Browner's still alive if he's out there. But he was cool, and we did like the choir and we did like the school musicals, and I think we did Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat or something, and we did Oliver Twist, and then we what else did we do?
Yeah, I remember seeing you that, I think.
We performed in the National Concert Hall with some sort of choir thing, doing Mozart, doing a Mozart thing with Alexandra College. I think the girls from Muckers.
Yeah,
I got the three schools together and we did it, or maybe it was just one of them. But I think my major influence is the reason I'm doing what I'm doing today, and the reason where I'm at today with my music is because your kind of introduction to club culture. Because I don't think if that hadn't happened, then I possibly wouldn't have been doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Really, so it's kind of like maybe I would have found a way, but it was I got fast tracked because of that. I don't think
timing.
Timing's everything, But I think so. I mean, what was it that kind of? How did you get into it? Like, because my memory of you being into music is obviously like
Guns N' Roses,
rah skirts, and like eyeliner and big hair with Janice Redmond and Axl Rose.
I think that basically I went to the Institute of Education.
Institute of Ravecation.
Yeah, it should have been called that because I did horrendously in my leaving cert. So I was sent back to the Institute to do it. And at the Institute, I made friends with people from the North Side, and some of them were like, I kind of remember the day. This is weird, but bear with me. We were sitting in the orientation. I was sat there still in my like gypsy rocker skirt and a Aran jumper, thinking I was, everything I wasn't. And this girl walked in, and I literally turned around, and she walked down through the classroom like she was Naomi Campbell, but she basically was a clubber. And the clothes that she was wearing were clubbing clothes. like at the time, so she was wearing like she looks very like French, like a French pencil skirt and a beret, and like the shoes and like the fishnet tights and like an off the shoulder top, but very club wear. I'd never seen anything like it in my life. I was like, who's that girl? She's freaking cool. And she basically was into dance music, and she went to clubs, and I was like, how do I get there? How do I get me some of this action? And she was like, oh, I'll take you. And she took me to, I'm trying to think, I think it might have been Club So was the first place she took. I mean, I don't know, there's lies, there was untold lies. We were places we weren't supposed to be, because I was only, I think, 17 at the time. And we went there.
That means 15 to anyone else who's listening.
No, what does it, Mum? And we went there, and it was a dingy basement, and the music was mad. And I was like, you know, I was used to Hollywood Nights or like a rugby dance, like, you know, one of the like Wesley or Hollywood Nights or Coco's or Tamangos. That was like my bet up until then. And I just didn't understand what was going on. I was like, this is weird. And everyone was like faced in one direction. They were all dancing to music. It was pitch dark. There was lights, and it was mental. And then I think after a while, we'd stayed out and then went back to her house and whatever, had a sleepover. I was kind of like, God, this is weird. But then slowly the realization of the drug culture that was the dance music industry at the time, kind of like, I began to realize what that was, that it was a whole culture and a whole way of dressing and a whole type of music and a whole heap of drugs that people were taking to, you know, they belonged to the cult of dance at that time. And it was very liberating, and it was very eye-opening, and it was very, I mean, I didn't know any of the songs. It wasn't like smash hits when you were a kid and you could be like, or any of those bands that I was into before that previously, where you were like, you know, you knew the lyrics and the songs resonated with you because you felt what they were feeling. This was completely different. It was so tribal. It was so, I don't know. It was like everyone was operating as one person, which is weird. But at the, you know, the drugs, sorry, Mum, probably enhanced all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, so from then I was in college after that, and I'd kind of met people who were into similar club nights and clubbing, and yeah, from that, I mean, I'm trying to think, because then there's like Billy and Amanda and Irene and all those, and I'm like, how did I?
That's what's phenomenal for me, because I think when I fast tracked, because you'd kind of laid foundations into that world, which is really like, you know, a very unique kind of environment, you know, and it was almost like a closed shop because it was proper underground. So
yeah,
to get in was very difficult, you know, if you were
it was
like
Johnny, actually,
you know. I mean, so, you know, to I got like basically direct access to, you know, Johnny, Billy, Irene, Peter Kendricks, you know, obviously you dated Dave and people like that, like, and you know, Mark Dixon and Liam Dollard and all these people who like probably wouldn't have given me the time of day if I hadn't have been your little brother, which is kind of
so weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's so weird. I don't like. I think I met Johnny Moy at a party where I'd gone in to change my shoes in a bedroom of this party after being in one of the clubs, because there was also only two clubs. I mean, you had the big rave at God, my brain, what do you call it? The Olympic Ballroom, which I'd been to a couple of times. But then there was such a massive scandal around that at the time, and all the newspaper ran stories of acid house parties and how you know, the devil was taking over your children basically, and everyone at these parties was on drugs, which they probably weren't, but it was all like, you know, it was so in that youth culture way where it's like the parents didn't understand it and they were all horrified and scared and frightened by it, so that like just pushed it further. But I think I met Johnny Moy at a party after being at one of these clubs, and I went to change my shoes in a room and put some makeup on, and there was a bloke sat there and he was like, oh hi, and I was like, oh hi, and that was the first time I met him. And I met Billy in the Garage, which was U2's old pub, although he doesn't remember. But then I started to work for Johnny, so basically after actually I used to do flyers for Club So. Me and the girl that I met at the Institute, we would I don't even know how we did that, but we must have turned up or we must have talked to the right people, and it was run by Jonas at the time. And then we started, and all the record shops, all the vinyl shops, all the places that we knew that people who were into that music would hang out, and we would flyer. And then we'd get in for free. And then it kind of slowly progressed till Johnny was doing Temple of Sound, and I ended up booking DJs, helping him. I was the driver. Like, I would pick up the DJs, I would put them in the hotels, I would look after them for exactly kind of what I started to do then in the music industry, which was taking care of DJs. And that's how I got to know Weatherall and David Holmes and, you know, Phil Perry, all of those people, because I would pick them up from the airport. Sometimes they came with luggage, sometimes they came with their marbles left behind wherever they were, sometimes they came out on a conveyor belt. Sometimes the security would be like, is this yours? And I would take them and we'd check them into the hotel, and I would look after them. And Darren Emerson, that's, you know, all of those people that we still know now, all came from the Temple of Sound and Johnny, really.
I mean, that was it was a huge thing. I mean, my first memory of going to the Temple of Sound is not getting in because I was too young, but not by the bouncers, by you and your mates who said you were like, you're too young, you can't come in. And Weatherall was playing. And I think Weatherall. So I mean, it's probably a good thing. Like, but I think Weatherall was like, we went to that pub down the Quays that was up from the Temple, and I went in and I saw you. Scurry bought me a pint, and I was like, oh, cheers, Bill. And no one really talked to me, but Scurry had said a word. And then Irene came over and said hello, you know, and then I sat down next to this bloke with my pint, you know. Probably should have been in there, but you know, that's what the way it was. And I started giving him loads of abuse, basically, because he had like the British Bulldog tattoos. I started slagging his tattoos and spoke to him for an hour, and then it turned out it was Weatherall, you know. Yeah. And he was really cool. He was just really cool. I think everyone was just too afraid to talk to him, you know. So I think that, you know, that changes a lot for me in my particular world, because I'm now stepping on, you know, in the shadow of these people and getting a direct line, which is one of the hardest things to do, is to try and get into that world, you know, when you're on the outside, especially when you're a kid. But, you know, I think that was like one of the most, you know, I think that period is really influential on who I am today, you know, because you know, and meeting people like Peter Kendricks and Scurry and Johnny and all the heads, you know, was just, you know, Dave Hales even like taught me how to DJ, and, you know, they all kind of feed into it, you know. So I don't think I would have been doing that if it wasn't for you, to be honest with you.
But you did. But you have really good talent at it. You're my brother, and I never give you any praise. And you know, I'm always like, what you do? What were you doing? But you are a phenomenal DJ. I mean, I've never seen you DJ in a room where people aren't like literally screaming for you by the end of the night. You are phenomenal at what you do. I'm so proud of you. But I think that it's funny that you are definitely the more creative of the two of us, because you went down that musical like pathway, whereas
you did too, mine, you did too. Like, so I mean, so right, for everyone who's watching, I mean, it took me a long time to figure out what you do as a job right now, but because I never knew what to ask her. Because it was like, what does she actually do? But then, you know, I'm looking at it, you know, obviously now you work for Universal Records. You're like the head of artist relations. It involves lots of different things, lots of different elements of, you know, an international music act's career and business within the UK, from marketing, promotion, releasing records, going on to the Graham Norton show, Lady Gaga, all these sort of people. Yeah. But you did what your first job that I can remember was when you worked with clubs and all that, but then in the music industry outside of like the underground thing was when you went to audition for That Girl Band.
Thanks, Arf.
And you got selected, and and you got selected for this girl band. You could sing and you could dance, and
I'm not sure about that. I don't think you needed those things to be in a girl band, or not everyone in the band needed those things. I think it was just interesting.
Louis Walsh and Valerie Rowe were putting these bands together, and they ended up not putting the band together, right? Tell us the story there.
Yeah, I mean, I think after they did Boys Own, they did Girls Own, and I used to go to the pod all the time, which was like the lighter end of the clubbing spectrum in those days. In some ways, not always, but we basically, I think I had met Louis Walsh there, and he was like, "Oh, you should definitely try out for this girl band." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know if I could sing really well or anything." And he was like, "No, try out." And I was like, "Okay." So I did, and actually it was Valerie Rowe who was in charge there, and it was through Polygram in Dublin, and went through all the auditions. I mean, the balls of me to get up there and sing, like, I don't know. It was in Lily's Bordello. I still look at it and think, oh, I can't believe I did that. But I dressed.
Boys On the Late Late Show moment, is it?
Oh my God, I just don't know how they must have been like, she's like the sound. But I dressed in a particular way then, so I stood out. I was different. I wore combat trousers and little tops, and I had my trainers on and my baby bads, t-shirt, powder, whatever it was that everybody wore then. And I looked different to the other girls. They all looked very dressed up and very glamorized, and I was very army combats, you know, Converse All Stars and cute little top or whatever. And they, I think I stood out, and they were like, "Oh, like sporty Spice Girls." But I don't even think the Spice Girls were out then. They weren't out then. It was like a long time before that. Yeah. And I think we had to go, and they kind of picked their lineup pretty much, but like 6 or 7 of us went to I think it was like Krista Berg's studio. I'm not even sure now. And we sang and we hung out together. And I mean, there's videotapes somewhere. Who knows where they are? But yeah.
Just so people know, you've got building work going on in your house.
I'm so sorry if you can hear banging and smashing. I'm sorry. Is that annoying?
No, it's fine, man. It's like
so they basically that all happened, and then me and Valerie Rowe had very specific. I think she wanted all the girls to be very glamorous. She didn't want, there was me and another girl, and she wasn't keen, and she had people like Liz Bonnen and stuff like that who she wanted to have in the band and who were very glamorous girls, and that's fine. That's what happened. So off the back of that, I had said to the president of Polygram, because he was like, "Oh, I really want you girls. I want to fight for you. I want you to do this." And I was like, "Do you know what? Get me a job in a record company. Get me a job in a record company. That you don't have to feel bad. It's okay." Because we'd signed contracts and stuff as such. I don't know why I said that at the time, but I just said, "Get me a job." And he was like, "Oh, I got you a job." And I went, "Where?" And he was like, in London Records. And I was like, amazing, I'm going to take that. And I was finishing off college, finishing off my psychology degree, which I postponed, and went to London for the summer, started working at London Records, and then never came home.
Wow. I mean, I remember that whole time period of like, I mean, I was kind of, you left and you were like 18 or something, or 19.
Yeah,
so you were gone.
yeah.
And so I was like, I would have been about 17, I think. When you went, and I was just kind of getting into the club scene, so we never really hung around in the clubs.
No.
Like in that period, you kind of had your moment in it, and then you went, and then I was just like, as I was coming of age, you weren't really in the clubs anymore. So
no, I became Arvine's sister instead of
you became my
Ciara.
sister. I kind of fast tracked myself in as your replacement then, with all the heads, and I start working with Johnny and. And helping the lads with flyers and posters, and being the DJ runner, and I essentially took your position as the DJ runner basically, and and that's how I met him. And then when I was meeting people like Darren Emerson,
that's so Irish.
And yeah, I know. I mean, it's like being in politics in Ireland. This was
like being the RTE.
Yeah. So I mean, it was like a fast track in, because then Billy Nasty would show up at the airport, or Darren Emerson, or someone. And they'd be like, "Oh, you're Shaw's little brother." "Yeah, mate, you're Shaw's little brother." "All right, that's gay, so it was kind of like, yeah. I mean, I feel like I was kind of lucky, because not everyone had that access to those sort of people, and it definitely opened up a lot of doors. So I have to thank you for that, like, really, And I don't know if you realize
you have to have the talent, though. You have to have the talent to go there with those things. There was no female DJs at that time. I mean, there was 2 girls who did Girls on Top. And it was so kind of like, maybe if things had been different, maybe I would have done that myself, but there just wasn't space. There wasn't space. They laughed at you when we would say, even people would laugh if they said, "Oh, a female DJ," and then two girls did do it, Emily and Sarah, and they were phenomenal. But they never got, Billy, I think, would have given them their bookings, and that would have been it. No one else would have employed them. I apologise. I think they're smashing the heck out of my house. But I think
that's quite crazy to think now when you look at like the kind of like the plethora of amazingly talented women DJs that are out there, and some of the young ladies like Cece Kavanagh, who's our mate, who's like smashing it, and that definitely would have been the case. If this was all happening now, you would have probably more than likely been a DJ, or a music producer.
I think maybe, I think maybe I would have had that. I mean, I still have the desire sometimes where I think I'd love to get up there and just play all these songs and enjoy them, because I like you, like playing music that I enjoy. And I think that's half the thing. It's like, play the music that you enjoy. And when you're invested in it in that way, it's contagious. I mean, I'm missing that element. And I did go out on Thursday night for dinner at a new place, which I'll have to take you when you come home. And they had a DJ. I mean, it was all outside. It was freezing. We were freezing, but we didn't care because we were drinking tequila. And they had a DJ right by us. And he was, and I mean, I can't say where it is because he just looks so miserable. He was like, But he did play some good songs. And I was thinking, like, the whole experience of just being, even though we're all outside and we were all distanced, just being together and listening to music. And you could see when he played some good tunes, everyone was kind of like, everyone was doing a bit of chair dancing, but it lifted the thing. And I think that's what's missing. Like, I always thought during lockdown that they should have DJs in like Sainsbury's, in the in the bakery aisle, because everyone was in a supermarket. And when I did ring people that I work with and go, I've got an amazing idea, we should put DJs in supermarkets. And they were like, while that is an exceptional idea, I think it would encourage people to stay and not social distance. And I think that's the issue we would have. And unfortunately, that's the issue we're having with many events right now. But I was just like, that's the first time I had heard any music other than whatever was being played in my house out was in the supermarket. And it was like liberating, and it was like the best of the 80s, which is my
supermarket
anyway.
80s sweep with Shara Juthan every Tuesday.
I was just hanging out with my trolley, like,
Hampstead.
This is amazing, like drinking the pre-made gin and tonics in a tin.
That makes me think about, like, actually, our mom and dad would definitely be people who love a party. That's the thing. I guess that kind of feeds into.
That's so true.
They always loved. They love parties and they love music. There was always parties going on, and I think that's probably a major grounding then, in terms of us doing parties or throwing parties or playing music. I think that's such a.
Never thought about that.
I mean, I'm only thinking about it now, really, and I think that's had a massive influence on both of us.
Well, I think that our parents as well were very, they partied, but then they also had, our dad came from such a strict regime, awful childhood, and then had the freedom of Ireland, which he will say. He came to Ireland, he met Mam, who was a white lady, and they literally banged no, that's not what I mean. They literally like smashed it up. I don't know what I'm trying to say. They had it large is what I'm trying to say. Okay. But they went out, they lived life. And they partied, and their friends did. And they had, I do remember when we were kids, we'd go around to whoever their mate's house, and you'd be stuck in one room with they'd give the kids a box of Maltesers, and they'd put Jaws on or something, or Star Wars. And in the other room would just be singing, dancing, laughing. I remember like just seeing feet all the time, because everyone would be up. They were like proper having it. So, and I think that was like a regular weekend thing, and it was they had a community of people who were also interracial Irish marriages, and we all hung out together. And I think the South African Indian element of that as well is a lot of singing. At the end of the night, all the uncles would be like, and if you manage to like walk in, not very good at Indian singing, but if you manage to like go by the bathroom, you'd be dragged in, and they'd be like, and they'd be doing light bulb dance, and you'd be getting involved. But I think you're right, there was always a bit of partying going on.
Yeah, I mean, they're up for a party. I think definitely having that combination of South Africa, India and Ireland combining together.
Yeah.
You know, that's such a like. I mean, you know, that's a big influence. Anyone who does music or likes rhythm or likes, you know,
Yeah.
maybe
And
that's why
culturally,
we
it's
love
like
Columbus.
eating, family, dancing, having a good time. I think they were all elements of it.
Yeah,
So maybe it's their fault that we
agreed,
then
man,
went to too
agreed.
many parties and we're always bunking out the house and stuff.
So in terms of your career, then you've started a job in double F double R Records, and then you
Yeah,
decide, and then you've got like this really extended career in the music business that starts, and
yeah.
did you think you would be where you are today, or when
No,
when you first
I
started
mean,
on those jobs?
not at all. And I think that the thing is, the thing I've been thinking about mostly in lockdown, really, in terms of my career, is like I've never actually given it loads of thought, because when I went to work at London Records, and like double F, like you say, double F double R were next door, and we would stay there and party all weekend. Friday lunchtime, this was before everyone had phones, before there was internet. You would basically go to the pub at lunchtime and then that was it. And then you might be there till Saturday morning, because on a Friday everyone went back to the label, and double F double R DJs or Lisa Loud, whoever would start DJing, and that's where you'd stay. And they weren't beautiful buildings. They looked like travel centers, but
Mhm.
everybody in it. Like on my first day, I showed up in my French Connection suit thinking I was, here I am, I've arrived, I'm in London, I'm in a record, I'm dressed in my French Connection suit, I look cool. And they sent me home and they were like, they all laughed and went, "What's that?" And I was like, "What's what?" And they were like, "What are you wearing?" And I was like, "A suit from French Connection." They were like, "You need to go home and change, mate." And they actually sent
Wow.
me home. And I went home and they were and I had to change and come back casual, because like you can't be work. I mean, now looking back at it, it's so funny when you think of like, record companies and record labels are full of the most fabulously fashionable, just people who are like individual and dress how they want. And it's such a big part of our culture. It's like you don't, yeah, that was the first and last time I wore a suit, I think, ever.
Schooled.
I know, it was so harsh, but I worked with like three guys as well. There was me and three guys. And literally, I remember the first time I heard Nirvana play and they were like, "Oh, listen to this. This is fucking amazing." And I was like, that's just really, I mean, it's lucky I'm not an A&R, because I was like, that is horrific. What is that? What is that? So it just wasn't my music, but it was like, that's the kind of music that was being made then. The music that was coming out around that time was so, you had all your dance bands, you had all, you had people like Mike Pickering, and you had, oh my God, Pete Tong worked at London Records as well. And you had all of this element to it, who were still making exciting music and still making dance music. But pop had started to come into the arena, and I went to work for one of the female pop artists who were signed to London Records, and I left there to go and work with them. And then I spent the next probably, I think, 6 to 8 years traveling with female pop bands. I
Mm.
literally went on the road and went from band to band and did that for a long time. So my experience of music was never really at home from that point on. I was constantly traveling and constantly working in different countries, which I didn't really get to see a lot of, really. I need to go back and do them again as an actual tourist. But, it took me to Tokyo, it took me to, oh my God, Indonesia. We went to Australia. We went to all over America. I mean, I felt very lucky to be doing what I was doing, but at the same time, it was also very hard. We never got days off. I worked for a year. I mean, you probably remember not seeing me for years.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think it feels like when you left when I was 17, I didn't see you for, I can't remember until you stopped doing that. Really,
Yeah, I mean, probably because I missed out on all the weddings, funerals, christenings, all of the important things now that I kind of, that's how it was, because you got these jobs and you were off and you were on the plane, and your schedule was done for the next 6 months of whatever band you were working for. And then it'd go on to the next band. And there wasn't many females doing what I was doing. Actually, I think there might have been me and one other girl but yet there was all these female bands coming out, and some were young. One of the bands I worked with, I was their guardian because they were under 18. But then at a point I was like, right, I can't do this anymore. I don't have a life. I'm living other people's lives, which was phenomenal. And it gave me some amazing experiences, but it was like, I've been around the world 3 times now. I've seen probably very little of it. I've got a wealth of experience. And I went to a label and said, please give me a job. And actually it was David Joseph, who's the CEO of Universal. He was head of Polydor at the time. And my now boss, she was like, you're overqualified. You've got too much experience. And I was like, please just give me a chance. Give me 3 months. If you give me 3 months and you don't like it, I'll walk away. But I said, I need to be able to sleep in my own bed every night. I need to be able to take holidays. I need to be able to see my family who I hadn't seen. Basically, I think, like you said, for years, I just wasn't home. I was home at Christmas. Christmases were the only time really I was home. So she took a chance on me, and David Joseph asked to meet me that day because he wanted to see why I was going from doing what I was doing to wanting to be an assistant in the artist relations team. And I was like, just feels like what I can do. And I really just wanted to get in the door. I hadn't really got a long-term plan, but I just started asking all my contacts, like Darkest Bees, who was the A&R of the last band that I worked with. And he was like, oh, I think there's a job over there. Why don't you ask so-and-so, can you see Shiara, in that offhanded way? And that led to what's now a 16-year career at Universal.
Yeah, which is phenomenal. I mean, lots changed in that 16 years in terms of the music industry, and we're seeing the diversity, gender balance, and we're moving hopefully towards more of a equal footing.
100%. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot better on so many levels that sometimes I kind of have to I second guess myself and think, oh, I don't need to think that way anymore, because that's not how it is. And the women that are coming up and the generation below me are, it's so much better equipped to deal with those things. And it's phenomenal to see them come with those suggestions and ideas in their way and not put up with bullshit. I'm lucky I work for Universal Music. They're very forward thinking, and they're very open to changing that landscape, and they've done phenomenal work with diversity and inclusion, and I'm proud to be part of that, and hopefully for generations to come, and women to come through, and people that are diverse, because as you said, it's not just those people. It's not just those people with a great marketing plan, or everyone has different talents. And on the team that I work in, we are all very different. I am so bad with computers, but our coordinator, Martha, she is like a whiz. She's like the Wizard of Oz to me. I'm like, you're a genius. She's like, I'm not really. I just know how to do it. But my talents are elsewhere, and it feels good to have that valued, and to know that you're, I haven't left, so that should tell you. And before that, I had worked for many different management companies with different bands, but yeah, I feel part of the family at Universal, and the furniture maybe.
I mean, and it's pretty. I think it's a really amazing achievement. That you've taken it to where you have, and I'm really proud of you as your brother.
Thanks, bro.
And I take inspiration from it. Maybe one day I'll be the same. I don't know. Who knows? But I was going to say, say to you. So, if you had any advice for anyone who wanted to do what you're doing, what would be is there any key takeaways? A couple of key takeaways that you feel like are the things that you stand to at the core for what you do, or the way you do.
I mean, I always think stick your neck out and ask the question. I don't know why I asked those questions at the times that I did, and I often talk about that with my husband and say, God, if I'd never asked Paul Keogh from Polygram Records to get me a job at a record company, I would never have made it to London. All Saints was the first band I worked with, and some of those girls are my family, and we're still friends to this day, and we still love each other very much. And that's like a friendship that has spanned many years. And I feel like, God, I wouldn't have met my husband either. So I think it's like, ask, or never be afraid to ask. And when I interview people, young people or whoever coming up for jobs or anything like that, it's definitely a chemistry, and it's a confidence, and it's a willingness to learn, and wanting to get stuck in, and an approach of let's do this. I mean, I very much base it on chemistry. The people that I work with, it's based on chemistry, because I just know instantly from meeting someone that they're like, they have the same passion, and you have to be passionate about music. I mean, people will say, oh, do I need to learn an instrument? Do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? Not necessarily. The music industry is another place where people who are or have been maybe musicians is the corporate side of it. I'm saying is that it is like there's opportunities there. There's A&R, there's all the social media, new media opportunities as well, which really exciting, because when I started, the IT guys or the social media, there wasn't any social media, but anyone to do with computers worked at the back in a dingy office, and slowly as time progressed they moved through, and suddenly they were the ones in the big offices and earning the big bucks, and they were the ones that were controlling and tastemakers of the industry as we know it now. But I think the most fascinating thing is that we're always evolving, and record companies have an amazing capability of rolling with the times. And when vinyl ended and people and cassettes and we were going into CD and everyone was like, yeah, but they make it work, and it's a fantastic place to work if you like challenges. And Universal especially gives people the scope to maybe look at, I don't know, different areas that you might not have necessarily considered. I do think though, it's like, ask if you're into music and you want to do something like that, go and offer, say, I'll work here for a month for free if you can. I had 3 jobs when I was in college. I worked with Johnny doing all the club stuff. I was studying psychology degree. I did the beer promotions. I don't know if you remember that, when I used to do
I benefited from that. Big time.
I think everybody I knew benefited from that. But I used to do Foster's Eyes pub promotions up and down the country. I would come home from college, get my mum's car, which I would borrow, drive down to Cork, do the beer promotions, drive back up, be up for college. I worked with mentally ill children as well, sometimes at the weekend. I mean, I sound like a freaking saint here, people, but what I'm saying is I always was like, I always wanted a job. I worked in Radar, which I think everyone who ever went clubbing in Dublin worked there for £2.50, Feldon jeans, but that's where they had all the club clothes. But it's like, I always had a job. And I think maybe our parents were workers, they had work ethic. They both grew up in backgrounds that weren't as advantaged as ours, and they fought for what they had. And I think maybe that shone through. But I also think I love meeting people. I want to be out there. I want to know what's happening. I want to see what the next thing is that we could bring to the table. And I think that connections and connecting with people, as you know, because you're a super connector, you're amazing at that. And people the randomest of people, brilliant people from all kinds of walks of life. And I think that is the thing. It's people. It's to be a people person, really. But yeah, I think just stick your neck out. If you wanted that bad, offer, say, I'll come and do it for 3 weeks for nothing. And you can tell me at the end of it whether you think
cool, man. Cool.
I've done it or not. But yeah.
That's fantastic. Listen, it was awesome chatting to you today, sister. Big sister.
Thanks, bro. Little bro. Even though my kids always laugh because I'm like, Uncle Irv's my little brother. They're like, no, he's not. He's massive. But yes, he is. He is my little brother. I just never grew. It's because I smoked when I was 16. See, kids, don't smoke. That's what's going to happen to you. But listen, big shout out to the Irish Roots Festival. Check it out, www.IamIrish.org. You can also donate if you want to the festival. There's a PayPal thing along here. I am Blirish. But loads more to come. Thanks, Shara. Thanks, sis. Thanks, dude. Love you.
Love. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to Irish Roots. Irish Roots is a completely volunteer-led festival. If you can donate, please do. For more information and to see what else is happening, jump over to our website. It's www.IamIrish.org. From all of us at I Am Irish, Gurav Mila Mahagut.